Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Max Traylor with us today. Max recently broke his foot playing ping pong, an avid golfer, also obsessed with agencies and churn. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This pod is brought to you by podpire.com. That is my podcasting agency. If you want to start and monetize a podcast via leads, sponsors, and YouTube AdSense, go to podpire.com, download the free book, and try out our masterclass. Max, welcome to the pods. What are you
Cheers.
up to nowadays? Tell me a bit more about yourself.
Well, aside from recovering from a broken foot and the flu and strep throat, because I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old that go to, kindergarten and come back with every disease known to man. Aside from that, I'm having a lot of fun helping agencies with retention and client expansion. That's professionally what I've been into for let's say the last year, and for the last 10 years. It's been mainly helping agencies get really good at the strategic part of their work so that they can get access to and align with the leadership teams at their client accounts, not just what's going on in the marketing side.
Let's talk about your background for a moment because you started out the gates as a founder, but then you went to work for some people for about 8 years and then you got back into the entrepreneurial game. So, what happened there?
Yeah, I am a fourth generation do your own thing. I wouldn't consider myself an entrepreneur because I have no interest in like building the company and employees and having multiple businesses. No, I want to hang out with my kids. I want to play golf and maybe take some time off of ping pong. But the point is that when I got into professional world, I was running a marketing agency. I had a few business partners, ran that agency for about 4 years, and realized that I loved the side of the business that was strategy and advisory and planning. I was 22 running this company, so people treated me like a big boy. That was a big deal for me. So I fell in love with the strategy side and started to license our strategic process to other organizations. So it really expanded my knowledge of business models. And pretty quickly, I started to like the business model of doing group workshops and consulting work and licensing intellectual property. I liked that a lot more than delivering websites and content and things that we were doing at our content marketing agency. So 10 years ago, I left the agency to pursue doing my own thing. And for the last 10 years, I've been helping primarily agencies, but other professional service companies as well, get really good at the strategic stuff. And that translates into clients that stick around longer, buy more things, don't surprise you by canceling contracts and that sort of thing. So it was only about 4 years of working for and with other people before going out on my own.
Right. And there's consulting, there's agencies. Most try the SaaS model nowadays. I guess it's like a play it safe. And yes, you seem to be a family man. It's still good money as a consultant, right? Like, is it what, 200, 300K a year? Is it still a good life?
I mean, I know consultants that make $1 million. So
What do they do special to earn that much?
charge more.
Okay. Have a GTM system in place, I guess.
Well, so it's funny because when I called my dad really early on and I said, I'm having trouble getting a job. Turns out I was unhireable, but I said, Dad, I just want to be a consultant. I just want to consult with people. And he said, well, congratulations, Max. All that means is that you make up the price. And I've spent the last 10 years interviewing people as you have, interviewing people on how they package up their knowledge, how they monetize it. I have seen stupidity be extremely successful, and I have seen brilliance fail miserably. I don't believe there's a rhyme or reason to, like, you can sell anything to anyone for any price if you focus on it. And I think that is the difference maker of people that are really successful, is people that focus. Because when you focus, you will be on a learning curve and you will figure out the right ideal client. You'll figure out the right pricing for you. You'll start to get more business than you can handle, which will afford you the opportunity to raise your prices. You'll become known. Everything good comes from focus, and the people that are making $1 million have just been focused on it for longer.
Can you define focus? Because I love taking bits and pieces from multiple areas slash sciences and bring it into one. For example,
Yeah.
AI lead gen podcasting, which is my niche. So
Yeah.
can you define focus?
Yeah, I would say product market fit is what I mean by focus. So
Okay.
you have to decide who you want to help. I am best at helping agencies that are between 20 and 100 employees that are in and around the demand generation thing. So your ideal client profile. After that, you want a single services process. The enemy that we're all battling against is the services menu. You cannot have a menu of services and let clients pick
Yeah,
what they want. Operational
I hate
efficiency goes
that.
out the window. Your positioning goes out the window. You have to maintain leadership and control of these client accounts. That's why they pay you. So if you're good, if you want to create a business or a service process with 4 different disciplines, that's okay. But every client has to move through them in chronological order. They enter door A, then they go through B, then C, then D. That's okay. A singular services process. So what do I mean by focus? It's the same thing I mean by productize. You deliver the same thing to the same people for the same price.
I love that. Love that very much. Yeah, upsells and the offer the value scale, I guess they call it. Like I was introduced to that through Russell Branson, and yeah, that has sort of changed the game. Now churn. Russell Brunson is not the best to talk about churn. ClickFunnels has a lot of churn, and it's usually a rocket science for most business owners to keep their clients. Is it simply about having the best CS out there, having the best product? How do you actually keep a client? Is it like pre-designing a program like you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people will say value, better service, better product, better value is going to keep clients. I think that's totally false. It is 100% around the relationship. You could deliver. It's like that. What if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it? Did it actually fall? I don't know what the analogy is, but people say that. So the point is, if you're delivering a valuable service, but you're not delivering it and communicating in the love language of the people that actually cut the checks, you could be fired for doing great work. And based on your reaction, I feel like you've been fired for doing great work. I sure have. So it is really, like I heard one time, being right is not sufficient for being effective. And in
Dude, I
this
love
case,
the love language analogy. What's most like CEOs and founders love language? Aren't we like very similar? Okay, we want value.
you'd think so.
I think so.
I
Probably
I
wrong.
I was early on in my career, I was operating under the assumption that people would make decisions based on value to their organization. They don't. They make decisions based on their personal livelihood. They make decisions based on not getting fired. Dale
Hmm.
Harrison talks about risk adjusted value. So it's
Okay.
about risk and it's about their personal lives. And
Hmm.
so that's the objective in any client services capacity, is to really understand what is personally motivating to the people that you're delivering the service to, while keeping track of the business value. But it's not the end all be all when it comes to keeping clients or gaining the transparency that's the ultimate goal, because you will lose clients and you just want to know about it before it happens. That's the key.
Yeah, and I can relate to CEOs and founders thinking in risks. Should I ask multiple AIs as per what risks would they perceive into me and the potential value? Is that like how I should go into crafting my offer?
Yeah, I think AI is a good research tool. It's good to get, you ask it a question and it will probably give you some ideas that you haven't thought of before. So I think that's a reasonable question. What are the major perceived risks in procurement in the C-suite? If so, like for buying marketing services, okay, you have to give them access to your data. Someone at that organization, the whole scenario of the data getting out and them being sued as an organization, and then being not only fired but barred from the entire industry, like that is the cataclysmic risk scenarios that go through the heads of the C-suite. And the reality is, the value of your service, of your product, is completely irrelevant. The product that wins in a or the The service that gets retained when there is a committee making the decision is the product or service that has thought of the most risk angles and has an answer for them. It is
Man, I
not the
love
most
that.
valuable product. That's not how the world works.
Yeah, well, in the corporate world, right? Because me, I work with smaller businesses, usual serial entrepreneurs, trailblazers, in tech, funded, rich, high net
Mhm.
worth people. You work with agencies mostly, and I guess you were speaking about your clients just now. Who's your ICP? What's the size of agency you typically work with? And what niche also? Like, do you have a favorite agency niche you like to work with?
Yeah, 20 to 100 employees. And I say that because it's after the principal has gotten out of service delivery. But they've also hired somebody with managerial experience that is playing an overhead role. They're not client facing. So there's an actual person that's responsible for everyone delivering the service a certain way. And that person should be responsible for retention and expansion of client accounts. Those are the accounts, those are the agencies that I like to work with. Before that person is hired, it's often very chaotic and it will be an agency's highest point of churn. But there's nothing I can do about that because the problem is the principal is now setting expectations in the sales process, handing it over to people that only have marketing experience, that have never managed people. So generally, there's not a process that's being followed. There's not a lot of information being gathered on the client account. It's an era chaotic of chaotic churn. And if I'm in there trying to help and there's just accounts being lost left and right, um, whether or not it's my problem, it becomes my problem. So that's like the level of maturity that I like to work in, where they have hope of actually implementing the process that I can teach them.
Okay, so still no COO, churn left and right, but a possibility, a glimpse of light that they might want to structure themselves, have SOPs and scale.
Yeah, somebody is responsible for the standard operating procedures in client delivery.
Okay. If they hire you, from what point do they keep you in? Is it just forever? Do you have a program for them, and how much do you charge?
I charge $10,000 a month because that's a really round number and it seems simple to me.
Yep.
Generally, first 30 days is we figure out how much opportunity there is. So an audit, if you want to be, vanilla about it. But I look at their current process. I look at their current client accounts. I look at their level of talent for any experience gaps. And I say, okay, I think you can go from maintaining your clients for 12 months to 24 months. I think you can upsell these services across 25% of your accounts. I think you're sitting on, $250,000 monthly recurring revenue if we do this better. So that's the first thing I do over 30 days is try and quantify the opportunity for them. Then for the first 90 days of an actual engagement, we would model the new process, document the crap out of it, and bring somebody in or upskill someone to be responsible for that services process. In the second 90 days, we would then be teaching and institutionalizing that knowledge across their account managers. After that, we might do a fun project to do some industry research or get some new proprietary information, because ultimately you want to maintain an audience with the client's leadership team, and you can only run so many kick butt QBRs before you run out of interesting things to say. So every agency should be doing industry research. They should know something that the client doesn't know about their customers. And if you can show up with something that your client doesn't know about their customers, you will always be invited into that room. So once we have the process squared away, then we can get more creative with like, all right, what sort of programs can we put together to make those meetings a little sexier, a little more exciting, and maybe start to build some monetizable intellectual property of our own.
Love it. Do you meet with them once a week, and then how long do you usually keep them, and what's your churn rate?
At most, I'd be working with a client for a year. If they work with me more than a year, it's just because they find me deeply entertaining. And I'd meet with them once a quarter on their quarterly plans. So no, my objective would be 6 month to 1 year engagements. I need about one new client per month to maintain a full book of business. So I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn. I do a lot of interviews. I do a lot of meeting people because it's not a close an agency client and hang on to them forever. I am trying to install a process. And so if I'm terrible at my job, it takes a long time. If I'm good at my job, it takes less time. And so, yes, there is a defined end date for my work with clients.
Right. And 10, 20% churn rate, is that the nature of the consulting business?
No, it's 100% churn rate.
100%,
The
right.
question is how long. So I think a better question would be lifetime value, right? So if my
Yes.
goal is to work with a client over the course of the year, I'm getting paid $10,000 a month. The lifetime value with that account would be $120,000.
Right.
But the intent is to churn, and there are many accounts that I start and know it's only going to be a 6-month engagement. And so as long as I know about it, that's my goal. The goal should be zero unreported churn, not zero
Right.
churn, because we're not going to keep our accounts forever.
Because once you sign the contract, there's no reason why they should ask a refund, basically. Is it the same with your agencies? Is it the nature of agencies also 100% churn eventually? Are agencies non-scalable business models?
Yeah, I don't. So I think the last time I looked it up, the average tenure for a client account for an agency was 3 years.
Which is a lot.
That it is a lot, right? But you're talking about agencies of record. You've got all sorts of agencies in the digital marketing space, like fast pace, where things are moving. Most of the time, when a client is hiring an agency, they already have a plan in place to internalize a lot of that work. They just want to validate that they can get results. Then they'll bring somebody in house. So if you're an agency and you're thinking and you don't have a plan to exit that account, you're just being naive. And I think that should be a part of the account planning process. Like, how does this end?
Yeah, I like what you mentioned with the fact that after 12 months is that they really like you, right? Which means like friendship, and that's the end of my funnel. It's like friendships and business investments usually. So I will work for my clients for commission because I believe in their model. After 3 to 6 months, mine is shorter than you, and I'll also invest in their business and get equity if I really like their model after I've gotten to know them for 3 months. The agencies that you work with, who and what niche do they have their product market fit in, and who are the lowest churns in their business model? So I'm asking basically, what's the best niche right now? Is it AI TikTok agency? Is it necessarily digital, or it's like very much traditional type of agency?
Um, I mean, the more trendy and tactical you get, the higher the churn. All these AI agencies, like if you, oh, hey, we're going to provide a service around an experimental product that may or may not exist in a year. It's a category that you as a client organization don't know whether you should hire for, but people are entering the market and getting skilled up in this area faster than ever. I mean, you're just going to get a lot of churn, and I think that agencies that can use that as a peripheral, you need to have an opinion on it. You may have somebody that can keep you a part of the conversation, but it certainly shouldn't be how you position your organization. You're going to meet the same fate as inbound marketing agencies of the 2010s, right? They don't exist anymore because that was a trend. That was a fad. And then it turned into marketing and sales alignment. And then that's where all the RevOps agencies came from. So I think agencies need to take a look at, am I aligned with something that is trending and going to change every year? Or am I aligned with something that people are going to want forever? Intelligence of how their buyers buy, creating a customer experience, getting an ROI across all marketing investments. These are things that are always going to be relevant. But I think too many people take that flashy new piece of technology or new trend and create an entire positioning around it that they're just going to need to redo in 1 or 2 years. And it's going to kill their positioning, and nobody's going to remember what they did.
So lesson here is to have the old traditional service, also deploy special ops as an agency, but don't fully depend on the flashy new thing, I would guess. What is an example of niche that you've seen work really well? Or is it even a question about niche or more about the way they do ops, the way they do culture, the way they do sales as a success factor?
I mean, I think the success factor again is their focus. So you're talking about, are they focused on their ideal client? And so there's a question of like, what types of ideal clients should you focus on? And I don't think people are running around with like industry data going, oh, it's SaaS right now. That's what you should really focus on. The most important thing, and my grandfather would always say this, is you have to know the territory. So if you've spent 30 years in healthcare, your ideal niche is healthcare. You get somebody that spent 30 years in, you know, in startup SaaS companies. Healthcare is the exact opposite of what they should do. So I think as long as they really are taking stock of the experience they have at their firm and focusing on ICPs that will recognize them as peers and recognize them as understanding their buyers and their business, that's step one. You have to be perceived as somebody that understands your client's buyers. And then number two, are they delivering a service that is the value of that service has some longevity to it? Like, are they positioned around a value proposition that is not going to be irrelevant in a year?
Got it. Last question, because we're on time. How are you using AI nowadays to consult with your clients and bring them results faster?
I'm not. The one thing I use AI for is taking my interview clips and turning them into, taking my interviews and turning them into clips, because I used to pay someone to do. Oh, yeah, I'm an Opus Pro guy.
Shout out to Opus.
Yeah, shout out to Opus. I mean, for me, it's all about business development, and the way I develop business is I meet people, I collaborate with them on content, and the more I post that content and mention them, the more they post that content and mention me. I'm now getting exposure to their network. So if I can get 20 clips, some of the person I'm interviewing being brilliant, some of me being brilliant, and then all of a sudden me and that guest are posting our content over the course of 30 days. You know, if I do that a couple hundred times a year, I get all the business that I need.
Yeah.
That's what I'm using AI for. I haven't really jumped on the train. What I will not use AI for is communications with my clients. I will not do that. I'm never going to automate messaging to them. I'm never going to automate some status update in my service process. I think the appropriate use of that kind of technology is to broaden your perspective, research. It should inform your conversations, not replace it.
Interesting, because the word never. In case of AI, I'm pretty sure AI could replace you in a bunch of things in a positive way, right?
I use never
It's just
sometimes,
not ready.
Well,
right
like I
now.
said, I was never going to use Slack, and I have still never signed into Slack. So
I don't use Slack either. It's I don't like Slack. It's too much. Same
Yeah.
for WhatsApp group, right? But anyway, I've tested them. I think like people should test things, generally speaking. But I do understand some of your philosophies here. Max, where can people find out more about you?
LinkedIn, Max Traylor on LinkedIn, MaxTraylor. I'm the one that posts all the videos.
Yeah, it's good content, by the way. It's
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I chose seal of approval here. So Mark's Taylor, pretty sure you've been called that before. Max Traylor and Charles Cormier as part of a seal